I'd like to congratulate Patricia Crenshaw for inviting me to this event, and also for the role that she is playing, the leadership role that she is playing among the national affiliate councils of NMSDC. She is the chair of the local presidents of the affiliated councils. Congratulations, Patricia. You're doing a great job. The NMSDC is 51 years old this year, having been started right after the city riots after Dr. Martin Luther King's death. A group of corporations got together in the late 1960s and decided that they, in order to calm down the people who were rioting, that they would hold a trade show. And they brought together, invited black companies that they knew of, there weren't a lot, to come in and meet some buyers. And from those humble beginnings has grown an organization that over 51 years has touched thousands of lives, supported tens of thousands of minority businesses by getting them certified and hooking them up, connecting them with potential corporate buyers, affecting corporations in ways they couldn't have imagined because they started humbly, and some of them are really doing fantastic jobs now. I joined the NMSDC in 1988. So I was the president. I came in as president, and I left as president. I told somebody I retired because I never got a promotion. In 22 years as president, I saw and initiated, I believe, many, many changes in the organization. The premise of NMSDC is very simple. People keep trying to complicate it, but it's very simple. It is the purpose of the organization is to present certified suppliers to buyers, purchasing people from corporate member organizations for the purpose of doing business together, believing that each side benefits. The minority businesses are able to grow. The corporations expand their supply base and get much better suppliers as a result of it. NMSDC was initially funded first by corporations, and then when President Nixon in the late 60s created the Office of Minority Business, which later became the Minority Business Development Agency, they funded NMSDC. They also at the time created the MESBICs, which are financial organizations to fund minority businesses. They also, at that time, made small business loans, SBA loans, available to minority businesses. So a lot of things happened under Nixon. Nixon was a very big proponent of black economic power. Minority business is good for the United States economy. It is good for corporations because they get competition among their supply base and they get the best suppliers. It is good for minority communities, and it's definitely good for minority businesses. During my 22 years at NMSDC, we started simply. We were relatively small. We had many affiliates across the country, but the activity was pretty low. During my time there, we created things like the Advanced Management Program at Kellogg University, which is being replicated at a lot of universities, well, several universities across the country. We created seminars for corporate people, for corporate supplier diversity people, so they would be better prepared to do their job, better to explain the value proposition of supplier diversity. We created the international program where we decided that there was an advantage to replicating NMSDC units in countries abroad that had large minority populations. We've had great impact. NMSDC has had great impact both domestically and I would like to believe internationally. The basic premise of NMSDC is to grow minority businesses and grow wealth in minority communities. And I've always believed that when people control their own wealth and they have wealth, they're better able to solve their own problems. So they're not always having to look for a government agency. They can address their problems themselves. Well, haters are going to hate, as they say. They are working with planning to convert DOJ to an entity that will sue on behalf of white people and change the rules and the regulations to favor whites. They say they're creating a equal playing field. It takes passion, it takes guts, it takes collaboration, it takes identification. For example, when you are working with minority businesses and intending to bring them into the company, you got to search for the best businesses you can find. You're not paying anybody off. You're not doing a favor. And you don't do yourself a favor if you bring into the company businesses, MBEs that really can't cut the mustard. You have got to bring them in. You have got to be their advocate. You've got to expose them and explain to them the other things in the corporation that are available to them. We all know that corporations offer all sorts of things for favored suppliers. That's how some of their suppliers have gotten so large. They provide training. They provide financial assistance. There's all sorts of things that are provided to suppliers when they like a supplier and want to use them, want to grow them. I would think that the supplier diversity managers have to be advocates. This is not a job you can take lightly. It's my passion. It has been my passion since I joined NMSDC in 1988. You've got to believe in the power of it. You've got to believe in the MBEs. The beauty of some of the growth that we have seen among some of the MBEs. Just recently, I was with Dave Stewart. Dave is the chairman and CEO of Worldwide Technology, located in St. Louis, Missouri. Dave, in my early days in NMSDC, I met Dave, and I would never pretend to totally understand his business, but I knew he was smart, and I knew he was operating in a new area that was expanding rapidly in corporations. And I used to, every time I got a chance, I included Dave in my speeches, and I used him as an example of what minority businesses could do. And Dave is the prime example. I mean, there are lots and lots and lots of successful minority businesses out there, I'm happy to say, who've really grown, and proven their mettle and their worth and their value in the supply chain. But Dave Stewart is now, he said to me the other day that his company is approaching $20 billion in annual revenue. He's privately controlled and is a private company, but if he was publicly controlled, he'd be eligible for his company would qualify for a Fortune 500 company. So that is how he has grown. He was telling me that he has just gotten a contract valued at $600 million from the city, not the state of New York, from the city of New York. So even this someone who has just through the years has seen opportunities, but it all started when he came to NMSDC and got certified. I mean, he was one of the businesses like those that are in the room tonight. He had a dream, he had a passion, and he put it in place. And our job at NMSDC was to put him in front of those corporate people so they understood what value he could bring to their companies. Minority businesses need to understand very clearly who and what they are and what they can bring to the marketplace. They have to understand the niche in which they operate. They have to know who their competition is. They're not just competing against one another. They're not just competing against people in the council. They're competing with majority businesses as well. They've got to be up on the latest technologies. They've got to know, as I said, the competition. But what most important, they have to anticipate the needs of corporations. The solutions for today's problems are there today. You've got to figure out where a corporation is going. Try to build as much intelligence. You should participate in professional associations within your industry. Be up on everything that's happening so you're never caught flat-footed. And you can begin to suggest solutions, forward-thinking solutions, not just answering today's needs. because of the pressure that's being put on corporations, we're going to have to fight. NMSDC and other advocacy organizations are really going to have to stand tall, because all corporations have not collapsed in the face of the challenge to affirmative action. First of all, many of them get very nervous when there's any negative discussion about anything, and they throw up their hands and they fly. To continue to support supplier diversity, they have to document, or have someone document, what value add has there been from their minority suppliers. Okay? They also have to have a public statement. If they could have a public statement on their website, for example, by their CEO, which says, this is what we stand for, this is what we practice, publicly acclaiming that they support diverse suppliers. They should also make a big effort to work with their board. They should even have, some corporations even have committees of their board to work with DEI. You have to have buy-in. This is not a singular person, singular office, singular kind of activity. If this is vital to corporate America, then they have to behave toward it the way they behave toward other vital activities. When corporations want to get something done, they put their shoulder to the wheel, put the resources, both financial and human resources, to it to get it done. Please reach out and get the kind of professionals that you need. The intelligence to do this does not necessarily reside inside of your company already, or reside inside of your supplier diversity or procurement people. Reach out. There are minority businesses out there to help guide you. You can benchmark your program. I would like to suggest that the person that I have used and trust implicitly over the 22 years, or 30 years rather, that I've been involved in NMSDC, I turn to Ralph Moore and Ralph Moore Associates all of the time, because they are bedrock, they are solid, they understand, they can help your company build your supplier diversity program into a model program. Supplier diversity is a particular and peculiar business activity, okay, within procurement of a company to bring in diverse suppliers. DEI is, it encompasses, first of all, a much broader group than supplier diversity does. It includes employment. It includes a lot of activities that have, I won't say they have no relevance, but they're not directly tied. And sometimes when corporations blend the two activities together, the purpose of supplier diversity gets lost. There's a lot of criticism of DEI activities that, they're feel-good kinds of things. I don't know if that's true. I think any education of people of how to deal and identify with people other than yourself, and to value people other than yourself, has value. But I don't think the activities should be, first of all, I don't think supplier diversity should be subsumed under DEI. I don't think it should be confused with DEI. It is an activity, yes, to help diversify a certain area of the company, but they shouldn't be blended. These things are not new. People have been fighting back and fighting the 13th and 14th Amendment since they were passed, practically, okay? There was a discussion under Clinton about eliminating affirmative action, and we, NMSDC, organized our best corporate members to go to the White House. We took them to the White House to meet Clinton, and they then presented all of the reasons that they felt that supplier diversity, because that's what they were talking about, was valuable to their companies, value to the communities in which the companies, the minority businesses operated, and valuable to minority people, and continuing to elevate their position in society. The result of that meeting, I'm happy to say, was not the elimination of affirmative action in government programming, but it was, we ended up with a policy called Mend It, don't end it. NMSDC exists because corporations have some skin in the game. And during my time there, I particularly emphasized my relationship with CEOs. I was blessed with having a lot of deep is probably an exaggeration, but a lot of good relationships with CEOs. The automobile companies, for example, were always, because they bought such massive amounts to make those cars, they spent such massive amounts. They really had a lot of skin in the game. And even, it was Chrysler, Ford, and GM. And even when the Japanese companies came and it kind of landed in the United States, those companies understood in order to really compete, to really sell cars, that they would have to develop supplier diversity programs as well. So our ability to persuade CEOs, to get a CEO's time is pretty difficult, but to persuade them to come to Washington and in a meeting with the president to hammer out what were the benefits of this program, they did, and we were successful. Starting out with ground zero has been the biggest barrier that we have had. But by creating these larger and larger and larger businesses, and we went through a period when there really wasn't a heck of a lot to transfer, but we've now developed enough sustainable minority businesses that even if the children don't want to take the businesses on themselves, and many of them don't, they have assets, they have wealth to pass on. And then you build it, which is a way you build in a democratic society, okay? And that is what intergenerational wealth has provided for us. You need wealth to build communities. The need for minority businesses to operate in scale. The day of the kind of one-off contract from a corporation is over. And you don't want that anyway, because you're going to stay small. So you need an entity, a business entity, that can handle the size and the scope of the procurement needs, all right? And you can't do that with a lot of little businesses operating out here. You've got to have businesses of size. Corporations are risk averse. We all know that. But they have methodologies to evaluate the risks they're taking with their suppliers, whether they're minorities or anybody else. And they have to do their due diligence, But one of the things I was always amazed about is, perhaps that doesn't happen now, but in the early days, they would give a contract to a minority supplier, and something would go wrong, and the buyers would, that's it, we're not bringing in any more, no, we can't do, I don't want to risk my job. But every time they give a contract, it's a risk of a certain amount, right? And if a white supplier came in and fumbled, which they often do, when they have big recalls in corporations, those aren't minority businesses that are forcing those recalls if there's a defect in the product. Usually not, right? It's a white company, and nobody bothers to say, oh, we're not giving that anymore. We got to remember, these things seem basic and simple, but they're real. Those are the currents and the attitudes that operate in the marketplace that we as minority people have to be very sensitive about, because it is true that a minority firm, whether it's Latino, whether it's Asian, whatever, if a minority firm goes in and doesn't perform, it causes stink down the line very often for other minority firms. That's still very present in the marketplace. They've moved the needle. Minority businesses have proven themselves in the marketplace, so they mustn't lose hope. If you've got a better idea, if you put the energy, the effort into what you are trying to do, if you research it, okay? If you compare it, if you dig down deep and you have an idea, and don't be discouraged by the first turn down. Go back again and again. Approve on your a proposal if you can, but don't give up. This is how these successful people became successful. You can't be a PIA. But you got to keep at it. You got to keep figuring out a way how to profile yourself, how to present your product, your service, your business in a way that potential buyers find it attractive and want to do business. Create the feeling in prospective buyers they want to do business with you, because ultimately, people do business with people. And the ones they finally give business and contracts to are the person that they meet, presents himself, his business plan, his product, whatever, and they believe that person has the ability to carry it off. That's what you got to do as an MBA. You got to persuade those people to whom you're presenting yourself. You have the ability to carry it off. It indeed is the power of us collectively and individually working together to help build this economy and keep it the strongest in the world. It's about the power of us working together as diverse communities with our corporate partners through this organization especially. That is what this organization does, to build and keep the strongest economy that we can.